All right, guys. So, Season A 2026 is a wrap. Now, I wanted to kind of put this together as literally just a raw debrief breakdown of the season. I have no real structure to it. I have no real plan to it other than just recapping everything, going through the highs, lows, the experiences, the results, feedback, everything that we kind of got, what we took out of it, and using it as kind of like a teaching moment, but also a reflection for myself. You know, this is going to go on YouTube. This is going to go on the chat, on the channel, on the page, and it's something that I can come back to in 20 years' time. Something that I can come back to and reflect upon for myself, and also give you guys real time, in the moment, like reflection updates. So I left it to, well, we're basically a week out of nationals. It's Friday the 8th, which is my check-in day for Chris, and it kind of just gives me a chance to really sat through everything. You know, I'm still working through what I call a very deep emotional, psychological, and physiological debrief. You know, looking at everything from top down as to, you know, the systems that worked, processes that worked, habits to change, things that we're going to keep, things we're going to input, and things we're going to remove. You know, right through our business, our relationships, our family life, our structure, our routines, schedules, calendars, everything. But at a video sense, we just kind of like ad lib and sort of like go through the season. So realistically, this was by far the best season I've ever had in terms of confidence, in terms of belief, in terms of trust, in terms of execution, in terms of result, outcome, obviously, in terms of genuine belief in what's possible now. So as a recap, 6 out of 8 divisions were a top 4 finish. 4 of 8 divisions were a podium finish, including 1 first, 1 second, 2 thirds, one of which was at the national show. Now, the biggest focus for me this season was open bodybuilding, and is what I genuinely want to move towards and push myself into as a clear direction for my career. That being said, getting a 3rd place in Open Under 90s, and then at Nationals, I believe we were 4th place at Open Under 90s, was a genuine, humbling, driving, exciting outcome. It confirmed in me that we have a place up there. It confirmed in me that we have the potential there. And by the time of Nationals, we were actually on track to come down to about 81.9 to 82.5 kilos. So the exciting part is to finish top 4 in the country with 8.5 kilos under cap to fill up before we even consider moving to heavyweights is very, very exciting for the potential I have then to be impactful and competitive in that division. So very, very excited to see that direction in the future that we take. Now, classic physique for me was kind of just a pleasure and a competitive excitement. I have always loved classic physique. I've always loved, you know, the art of posing, the symmetry, the shape, the structure, the routine, bringing classic lines and flow back to bodybuilding, tight waist, tight structure. And that's something that I possess. I know that in myself. I know that looking at my physique, that's what we have. And the goal now is to basically bring that classic structure and shape to open size and condition. Being able to present the lines and flow and posing of a classic competitor in an open weight category. I think we did that this year alone. I think we did a great job of that. Posing was definitely a standout for me. Conditioning was definitely up there with some of the best. And I think we produced a look that was very, very competitive for either category. I think I probably was more competitive in classic, but also completely surprised by the fact that there was a 3rd place and, you know, genuinely competitive first call-outs for under 90s at both levels, state and national. So for me, it was an absolute win. Now, with that, there is an absolute list of thank yous. Brooklyn, first and foremost. Without her, half of the business wouldn't exist. The content that you guys see wouldn't exist. The systems and structures that we developed as a team inside our household dynamic wouldn't exist. She enabled me to execute at the level that I did without overstressing, over worrying, concerning. It was a team dynamic here. Like, when I make that cliche claim that the medals are equally hers, they are mine, is an absolute fact. It's not to be cheesy or cringy or cliche. It is an absolute truth. There is no result this year without her behind it. To Chris, we established something as a team that I've yet to ever experience. And that's that someone else outside of my head truly believed in what I envisioned my physique to be and brought it to life. I will work under anyone. I can work. The question is not my work ethic. The question is not my capability to handle struggle, stress, dieting, hunger, none of that. I've literally dieted, done 8, 10 weeks on 50-gram carbs, previous preps. If I have to, I can dig out of anything. But to have a plan in place that reflected and produced the result that I see in my head every day, that I think my physique can look like, in the best capacity we had available to deliver it this season, was something that I didn't know that I really needed to experience at the time. I genuinely got off stage and felt like Chris understood my drive. And as someone like me and the people that I've worked with in the past, people I've worked with in general, people that can't tend to meet me, they rarely understand my head and the way it operates and the way I think, the way I do, and what I believe I'm going to do. So to have someone direct the ship in a way where I now fully trust every single thing he says and does is a whole other world of experience for me coming into bodybuilding. It was a result that I didn't realize I needed in the sense to validate and vindicate the thoughts, beliefs, and passion that I have that had yet to be expressed. I knew that it was there. I knew that it was a possibility. I knew that I could be competitive. I knew that pro status is in my future if I find the right person. But to have actually found that team now, I genuinely believe I have my pro team around me. And you can mark this down as the day you've heard me say it. You can mock it. You can say whatever you want. I genuinely believe this is the pro team around me that's going to help me go pro, and that I will get to that position with these people in my corner. To Pete and Tom, they flew down to Melbourne, clients, friends, and basically family. They flew down to Melbourne to support the national show, come out and celebrate with us as a final meal. Honestly, couldn't have been more humbled by that. The fact that we have a culture and team dynamic where people are willing to fly across the country to see us succeed outside of themselves. They weren't competing. They had no need to be there. Family, this was easily the first time I truly believe my family genuinely supported the vision and dream that I have that I'm pushing towards, whether it be making YouTube, whether it be growing our content, whether it be the business, whether it be my actual physique. It is the first time I've genuinely felt seen, heard, and understood for who I truly am, and not the face or mask that I have to wear to be someone else. For the longest time in my rugby league career, my sporting career, my adolescence, it was always wearing a mask to fit into a group dynamic that I felt like I had to belong to, as opposed to who I actually was. At 34, which is scary to say, probably the first time that I've genuinely felt like I was appreciated this year for exactly who I am without having to wear a different mask for anyone else. The the things that happened during prep and the things we went through during prep, including my birthdays, I've never felt more seen and understood and appreciated and supported for exactly who I am and what we do. Now, it's taken a long time to get to that. Obviously, there's always those sort of statements that, friends or people online or clients or customers will support your dream long before those around you will. And then once you start to win, people start to align themselves. To a degree, some of that's true. And obviously you have to prove the concept before anyone else buys in. You yourself have to believe that it's possible and execute it to become reality before other people start to see the vision. And I genuinely believe this year people are starting to see what we are talking about and the philosophies that I preach and believe in that are producing the results we're seeing. That is starting to take shape, and it's landed in people truly believing who I am and what I do and what I say is actually real and not just a phase or a temporary situation or a mask or a faked I guess persona. So the family that truly actually bought in this year couldn't be more appreciative of. My mother and new partner allowed us to stay 3 days worrying about tans, posing, meals, groceries, cooking 5 times a day, measuring things out every other second, taking check-in photos in my G-string, posing trunks every other hour for the state show down the Gold Coast. Could not be more appreciative of that. It made life so much easier for us to be able to go there and just simply lock in while we're there. That level of support is insanely appreciated. To the friends literally around the world, and I know it sounds cliche to say that, but genuinely people in our corner that are in the other side of the planet, in America, in Europe, in England, that have reached out, messaged, supported, showed interest, expressed concern, checked in, asked for updates, wanted check-in photos, provided feedback that are also in the bodybuilding space, genuinely supported out of no benefit to themselves other than just caring. And the relationship that we have was something that I'd never truly expected to feel and have in my corner when I started this 7 years ago. It's insane what happens as you start to align yourself with who you really are, how authentic and genuine your circle starts to grow with good people. When you don't have to fake who you aren't pretending to be something you're not, when you aren't lying to yourself, you genuinely start to attract people who also believe in the same things you do, who also align with the things you believe in, and also support you because you support them. There's no expected benefit on their behalf or reciprocity. It's simply given because you give. It's given because you care, they care because they care, and you care for them. Those mutual relationships, insanely to me, exist around the world for us at a level that I'd never experienced even in our own backyard. So to those people who showed up every other week, allowed me to lean into them, message just for support, touch base, check in, send photos, not to doubt Coach Chris or anything like that, but just simply their professional expertise, their opinions, their thoughts, they're just a touch base, and kept me calm, kept me focused. It was truly appreciated, and a level of gratitude that I cannot express more than. The biggest thing for this season, I think, was truly how aligned with everything I actually was. When I say that, I mean that everything about life genuinely moved towards the direction of this outcome happening. For those that don't understand it, in the past, last prep I had to pull out. The body just simply wasn't responding. The previous plan that we had in place wasn't working. I don't think that it was operating in my body at the best capacity. Essentially, I'd been dieting since probably October of 2024, and then in a maintenance phase before that from about August of 2024. So I've realistically been in a dieting or maintenance phase for about 21 months. And the pulling out, obviously there's a lot of doubt, there's a lot of belief and what would be the word? Thoughts, self-beliefs, self-limiting beliefs, narratives about myself that I was saying, where I started to believe that I simply wasn't cut out for bodybuilding. Metabolically, I might not be the best genetic competitor that can make it. I would have to suffer through hell every single time I wanted to compete just to get on stage and not even look that competitive, not even look that conditioned. So coming out of the 2025 prep, when I started with Chris, one of the things that we simply said was, I'm gonna have to starve and be hungry for this year, for this off season. Food can't go that high because we don't have the muscle mass or condition. The body isn't in a metabolically prime state to increase that much food. I think we got to like 3,400 calories realistically, and coming out of a prep running 50 grams of carbs per day, it honestly didn't touch the sides. So it's probably been 1 or 2 or 3 days here or there where I've been genuinely satiated since 2024 in August. Most of the time it was hunger. There was still appetite driving. There was still, a lack of satiation. There was still high stress, high cortisol. The body just simply wasn't responding. I was came under Chris for his coaching. And even still, like, the food progressed and we were ironically recompositioning as food went up. Body fat was coming down, training was improving, muscle mass was growing, food was going up slightly. But it wasn't enough to actually drive any form of satiety. There was the odd burger-free meal or like cookie night or something like that where it helped, but it was nowhere near enough for us to genuinely drive a degree of satiation where I wasn't starving. And to be in that position, it was leading to a lot of self-doubts that I wasn't cut out for it. And it was leading to a lot of self-beliefs that I wasn't made for bodybuilding. No matter how hard I work, which as someone who can work hard, it wasn't going to be something that produced a result that ever be competitive. So this season for me and Chris was far less about placing and more about proving to myself and vindicating the beliefs and the stories that I was telling myself that I wasn't cut out for it, and actually proving to myself that I was. Being able to get to a stage of condition where I was actually able to be competitive and looked far beyond like I belonged up there. Anything above that then became a cherry on top. And I know people say that and it's kind of like, it's cliche and, it's not about the result. It was absolutely about the result. Once I knew I was in and locked in and the conditions started to dial in, it then became about winning. I always intend to win, always compete to win. I'm not competing just to have fun. Having fun up there and enjoying the experience, if you get there fat, is not fun. Going through 50-gram carb phases is not fun. But seeing what you are made of, seeing what you can push yourself to do and achieve is definitely fun. Knowing that the work had finally matched the result, the look and the aesthetic had finally matched the level of work that I put in was a sense of validation that I didn't know I needed until we got there and it was actually proven. All of the doubt, I'd heard conversations at the gym, can you get lean? Or I wonder if he's going to come in lean this year, and little shit like that where externally I don't care. But at the same time, internally hearing that, that it matters. You know that it's a competitive sport on how you look. And I talk a lot about the lessons and the philosophies of struggling, deliberately sacrificing, taking ownership and accountability. So it's on me to get lean. If I talk about those things at such a high level, I need to be able to back that up. And so this season was really as much about winning. It was also about proving those points and proving those points to myself, proving to myself proving those points to my team, to my clients, and showing from the front that I lead in a way that they can respect and emulate and look forward to, without doubts or perhaps, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about, or he talks a lot for a guy who can't get there. So there was a lot to this season beyond simply placing. Yet the placings also validated and vindicated those proofs. It validated those beliefs, that I can make it, that I am cut out for it. And on top of that, there is potential here to go pro. There is potential here, and you can say you only got third place in under 90s, or you're competitive in like that lineup, whatever it might be. But at 81 kilos, 9 kilos under cap, I genuinely believe that that is a good sign that with the right growth in the right areas, which we are planning to do now, that we are genuinely going to get there. And I think that's an important thing to kind of, identify. I think with that obviously come, new levels of condition, new levels of response, new levels of adaptation that I'd never experienced, felt, and seen. I've dug before and got to very deep levels of dieting and deficits and that sort of thing, but the level of condition that we achieved brought out a whole new level of struggle for me that has proved what I'm capable of, proved that I can endure, proved that I can embrace the struggle and be excited by it. The closer we got to stage, the more locked in I became, the more dialed I became, the more present I became, the more excited I became, and the better the look matched that. It proved to me that my philosophies are true, that in real time that I was testing my own beliefs and systems against myself, and that they were paying off. But it also came at a level of fatigue that I've never experienced. And you can't really describe it until you get there, but it's just simply a delay. There is a delay in everything that you do. There is almost like a glitch in the thought to execution process. The body just simply doesn't want to respond at that level of fatigue. It doesn't want to do. And there's a whole degree of mental execution that you have to push before the physical execution takes place. You need to drive yourself. When they say the body goes or the mind goes, you physically have to mentally go there and get your body to go there before the body will follow. There is almost like this 5-10 second delay in just like step, think about stepping, step, think about stepping, walk. You run out of cognitive capacity to do multiple things at one time. And it was a whole level of fatigue that we can now plan for, we can now expect, we can now understand, I can systemize, we can structure because of it. And all of these things realistically out of this prep become data points for the next one. They become systems for the next one. And that's where the refinement and reflection becomes so important, is we can look at that and go, okay, how do we systemize and structure for this to happen in the future? Because I'm going to get leaner and I'm going to be bigger. So that means the fatigue's probably going to hit harder. So we might have more energy next time, and it might have more fuel, but the size and the condition we're going to achieve, now that we know we can get there, the fatigue's probably going to be as high, if not worse. So now we can prepare for that, we can structure for that, we can systemize for that. And that's what's really saved us in this, the depths of this fatigue and this prep, was just how systemized and structured we were of execution and leveraging the tools and systems we've already built. So I teach this to my clients as much as possible to make sure that you have systems in place that allow you to outsource thinking and just autonomize your life so that you don't have to overthink and make decisions on the fly. It's rather already done for you, and your mind just simply goes about executing it. It's not up for debate. It's not a question. It's not a what about this. It just simply happens. You're going to do it because the system is designed that way. When you get to that point, it saves so much mental friction, mental bandwidth, cognitive currency, as I call it, that you can spend on other things. And so that was probably the biggest reality this prep, or in terms of like intensity or like a takeaway, was just the sheer level of fatigue that this level of condition brings. And it's going to take a few weeks probably for that to rebound and get better. We're now 5 days post show. Food's been fantastic, but it's not much easier. We're going to go for a walk now. It's about 6 p.m. I'm already crashing. So the body definitely owes itself a debt, right? The way I kind of like explain it is, let's say you have a net neutral position in your bank account when you start a prep, right? You might have $10,000 in there. Every week of prep is $1,000 exchanged. Now, you dip into that for a 20-week prep, 30-week prep, whatever it might be. You start at $10,000. You're going to be at a net negative of $10,000 by the time you get through a 20-week prep. Just because you've had one good week of food doesn't mean you've returned to that baseline net neutral position, right? You haven't got back to that surplus of $10,000. All you've done is put $1,000 back into a deficit, which now makes it $9,000, negative $9,000. So you still have to continue to pay off that debt, that fatigue debt, that accumulative stress debt that you've built into the prep to get your body back to healthy. So it's not an easy process, not a quick process, but we have the plans in place now, and that's what we're going to do. We'll go through that shortly. But realistically, it was worth, one thing that really bought into me was the trust that I'll have with Chris now forever is unquestionable. That man could tell me to run into a truck, headbutt a brick wall. If he told me that's going to pull off fat, I will do it. If he told me that was going to burn the extra fat mass off to get the glutes in, I'll do it. Once I have that belief and trust in someone, there's no questioning. There'll be questions because I love to know, but the trust that I have with him now and the relationship we have, the understanding we have, is only going to get better from here. And that's why I mean when I say that he's going to be our prep, like it will be our prep team, our pro team, that is what I mean. So the important part here too, the thing that this prep really proved is there was an interesting experience coming into both peak weeks that I'd never had before. I've obviously done peaks before. I even won a gold in first timers classic physique last show in 2022. The interesting thing was that it was the first time I ever truly experienced a degree of calm. There was a lot that happened in this prep, mind you, right? Like I had all 4 of my wisdom teeth taken out and they dry socketed, which if you don't know, because I didn't know, that meant that the sockets didn't seal over or actually bleed properly. And I had exposed dry root, nerve, and bone under the skin. There was no skin, sorry. All 4 of them did that. And apparently, you're supposed to go back to the dentist when that happens. I just thought I was being a pussy and that was how the recovery process was supposed to feel. So for 2 weeks, I had exposed bone that wasn't sealing over, and I just thought that was normal. So we went back, eventually got it resealed and that sort of thing. That was like January of prep. So that was already, intense. We had people trying to steal clients at our gym, people confronting and cornering Brooklyn as my fiance in the gym, trying to harass her about certain things, about clients and business, which is always an interesting laugh. And of course, me being the emotionally stable person I am, had to deal with that. We had, literally car accidents in peak week. We had Instagram get locked out, which is we run our business through on a daily basis. We had Instagram locked and basically have to start a whole new one 4 weeks out from show. The multitude of things that happened during prep on top of that, around that sort of thing, it was a lot that in real time challenged our philosophies and beliefs, the stuff that we preach. And it was a real growth chance for us to show the philosophies that we talk about in real time and actually express them and show them that it's possible. Focus on the things that we can control, take ownership and accountability of the things within our power to control, take responsibility for your actions and involvement, take responsibility for the goals and directions that you say you want to achieve, take ownership of your execution and actions that you are executing at the highest level possible. Don't point fingers, point thumbs. Internally, you're responsible for the things that you say you want to achieve and go after. We're not looking to victimize and blame anyone else. We're not looking to be victims and blame life for our shortcomings or our circumstances. It is simply what it is, accepting that for what it is, and looking at what we have control over to change. And we did that. In literally in peak week, there was a car accident. A person hit our car. I think it was the second last day of peak week one, where we just left the gym, finishing my full body session. We weren't at fault by any means, but it just simply was a test of character and philosophy right there to see how we handle emotional stability in that moment where we're trying to be as calm as possible. And what was most surprising was that in that moment, we actually, I came in calmer than I thought. I came in calm. I had a quiet ear of confidence, not in the sense I'm going to dominate anyone, not in the sense that I was better than anyone, but just simply a state of calm, that I was confident in the work that had been done. I knew the result looked like the work that had been put in. I knew the effort had paid off and returned dividends for what we put into it, plus interest. I knew that the look was there, and it was a stage of calm, presence, excitement, and competitive drive. It's something that I've never experienced before, because I knew that the work had been done and the look was there and that there was nothing left to do. Everything that could possibly have been done, I executed at the highest level that I possibly had to give, and that there was nothing left in me to give to that show. There was no doubts or questions of what if I did this, or could I have done that, or maybe if we posed here a bit more. Every single possible thing that I set out to do, that I said was in my success criteria to do, focus on the process, execute at a pro standard before I go pro, show up as a professional athlete regardless of whether I get it or not, execute at the highest possible standards, focus on the processes and performances that achieve the outcome instead of worrying about the outcome only, taking care of what I have power over, and then allowing that to produce the result that will make us competitive. All those things were done. And so when it got to peak week, it was a strange sense, an eerie sense of calm and relaxation and presence that I'd never had in 34 years, or 25 years of playing sport, being competitive as an athlete, and bodybuilding. So it was probably one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had in any field, to get to that state where I knew that the work was done. And I knew that it was a reflection of what I believe and teach, because it literally was the process being executed at a high level, performances showing up day in, day out, leading to what would be the outcome that I have no control over. So there's no point stressing about it. Instead, going up there and enjoying and reminding myself that excitement is not much different than nervousness, but excitement is the fact that we are looking forward to the challenge, that we have done the work for the challenge, and we're not scared of it. It is not a threat. I'm not nervous or anxious about anyone on stage. I was there to be me and to be competitive and show up. And then once it was on game day, once it was show day, I was there to dominate. And it wasn't a sense of like, I'm going to dominate everyone, I'm the world's best, but rather my job is to dominate and win. If you're going to beat me, you have to bring your best, because I've showed up and I've done everything in my power to win. It is not going to be something that I hand over and just giving because I'm insecure or unconfident because I haven't done the work. I knew the work was done. We produced a good result. Anyone who beat me was genuinely going to be better than me, because there was nothing left for me to give. There was nothing left for my physique to do, that I could be better. So once I had that mentality, it was basically just a pure, calm confidence and quiet state of relaxation that led to a very productive and very positive, stress-free peak, and the best looks that I've ever produced. The other part that prep produced for us, I think, was the relationship dynamic shifted and brought me and Brooklyn closer. And that's something that people need to probably understand more of when it comes to prep, is we did everything together. So we were at the gym at the same time. We did our steps at the same time. We meal prepped together. We cooked our food together. She helped cook my meals when I was deep into work zones and fatigue kicked in. We did grocery shopping together. We went on walks together, went on coffees together, went to catch-up coffees together. She didn't eat any free meals unless, I had a high day. We did homemade cooking together so that we could actually enjoy food at the same time. So the entire process realistically showed up as a means to make us more connected, and I genuinely believe helped produce a better result. And that was something that I can not undervalue. I can't overvalue. I can't overstate it.